Call the meeting to order at 6 p.m. or 6, actually, it's 6:02 p.m. I'd entertain a motion to accept the minutes of the April 13th meeting.
So moved.
We have
Second.
Okay, we have a second. Is there any discussion about the minutes? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay. 4-0. All right. Additions and deletions. We have at least two things under new business. One refers to a hazmat issue with the fire department, and the other one is a grant issue that just going to make you aware of. Members of the public. Andy, I want to try and get through the business part of it, paying the bills, and then we'll come right to you, all right?
Okay.
Thank you. Rob, go ahead with the warrants.
Make a motion to pay the warrants, starting with number 1, payroll in the amount of $11,031.57. Number 2, payroll tax in the amount of $4,551.01. Number 3, the general fund in the amount of $14,914.25. Number 4, the highway fund in the amount of $4,709.82. And number 5, the equipment fund in the amount of $2,009.16 for a total of $37,215.81.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Any question about any one of those 5? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of paying warrants totaling $37,215.81 signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Okay. 4-0. Okay. Steve, why don't you go ahead with your report?
I'm going to ask you, Sherwood, under new business, you have a grant topic. Is that the same thing I'm going to bring up about the bicycle and pedestrian program?
Yes. Well, not the fire department grant, but there is a topic in here, I believe, that's coming up for discussion at least.
All right, so we'll do that under new business.
Okay.
The grader has been out daily, shaping up roads. We did get out to Buck Hill this week, which was one of our worst roads in town. Finally started to dry up, but the shoulders are still very soft. We started changing culverts today. We did one on Simpson Brook. We're doing 2 more on Simpson Brook tomorrow. These are culverts that failed during the Christmas storm, the rainstorm, and the snow melt that we had, where we lost sections of roads. The beaver catcher has caught 8 so far since he started, which is almost 2 weeks now. And that's all I have.
Okay. Any questions for Steve?
I saw that Paul Ferget has started on the bottom of Overhill.
Yes, he was contracted by Sir Sosimo.
Yep.
He was up there today doing his part. And at some point this week, depending on weather, we will be up there taking care of our part.
Now, are you overseeing what they're doing and making sure that it's what you guys agreed on?
I am for what he did on the part of the Class 4 road.
Yes.
I don't have any jurisdiction over private property and what he's doing in regards to the damage that was done when the logging operation happened.
But as long as you're looking out, that's what I was asking about the Class 4 road. So.
Yes, absolutely. I was there with him this morning and this afternoon, and they pulled out this afternoon. And like I said, if we have a rain day where Robbie can't be out grading, then we're going to go over and work on the Class 3 section and finish up the Class 4 section and get that road back open.
Did you have a chance to go up after they left and look at it?
No, they were almost done the last time I was there. I had a meeting with Charlie Marchant at 1:30, and I didn't have time to go back after they pulled out.
Yep.
All set, Rob?
Yep.
Anybody else have any questions for Steve? Okay, we'll move on. Treasurer's report, the municipal investment fund, $768,958.65. And the checking account's $30,000 even. Okay. COVID update. Just getting feedback from somewhere. Steve, can you hit *6 to see if that stops? All right, do we still get it? Nope. Okay. COVID update. What we were discussing prior to the meeting starting of the governor's announcement today that they met their 60%, as he called it, benchmark, meaning that he got or they were able to inoculate 60% of the population to at least one dose of the vaccine. There are certain things that will kick into place for the month of May, which is part of the recovery plan that's available online. And then depending on how the numbers stay and where they're at, and they're actually doing very well, they're dropping pretty significantly, they'll move into phase 2. So we may be back to as normal. Well, they're hoping July 4th. Depending on how quickly it goes, it may be sooner. The other thing is a big help was the Johnson & Johnson vaccine was released from its 2-week hold. So it's not impacting the injections towards the general public. It's actually giving them a boost, and they're increasing exponentially. And that's about all I have as far as that goes. Any questions? Okay. The next thing we have is the appointment of a Board of Adjustment and Flood Administrator, and that comes out of the Planning Department. So the Planning Commission, and Andy Snelling's here to talk about that and one other issue, and then we can move on to the other things. Go ahead, Andy, you have the floor.
Okay. I wanted to talk about the Flood Bylaw, which is one of the areas that the state grants towns the ability to adopt specific bylaws. And Townshend last updated their bylaw on flood development in September of 2007. The purpose of the flood bylaw is to regulate development in flood zones. The bylaw is a requirement to become a FEMA qualified community, which sounds kind of mundane, but it gives the residents the ability to purchase federally insured flood insurance. So if you're in a flood zone, you may have a mortgage that requires that you purchase flood insurance, or you may just desire to have flood insurance. And if the town is not a FEMA qualified community, then you're not able to do that. It also makes the town eligible for certain state and federal fund in the case of a federal flood disaster. We don't have those often. I do think that this was used during Irene. I think that it came into play then. That's obviously quite a while ago now, but it's still something that is worth maintaining. And as a part of the requirements of the bylaw is one that we have a plan administrator for this particular bylaw who would be responsible for issuing any conforming permits in for development in flood zones, or just to make sure that the bylaw is being followed. The other part of it is that the bylaw requires that there be appointed a board of adjustment, which is the body that would review any conditional use permits for development, which the way the bylaw is written basically means any development that would occur in any sort of flood area. None of these are really very active. We don't have a lot of development that occurs in flood zones. The flood zone areas basically are along the West River and the small stretch of Mill Brook. Because we have the benefit of the Townshend Dam, we're at much lower risk for floods than other places might be. But there's still, well, yes, from a flood point of view, yes. From a recreational point of view, great question.
A tax point of view?
Well, we lost 1,000 acres that we get $5,000 in lieu of taxes. Not as much as we'd like, but we do get that. As part of that, the statutes and the language of the bylaws say that the planning commission will appoint a plan administrator, and then the select board is responsible the planning commission will nominate, and then the select board is responsible for appointing the plan administrator. And at our last meeting, the planning commission unanimously voted to nominate Joe Winrich for a 3-year term as flood plan administrator. And basically, I'm here to one, request that the select board make that as an appointment for the 3-year term of flood plan administrator. And
Okay.
we can stop there.
Yeah, if you can, why don't we deal with that, and let's talk to Joe for a minute, and then we'll move on to the next part of it, if that's okay with you.
That's fine.
Where you are, okay. Joe Winrich is on the call. Does anybody have a question for him, or have any questions for him?
Yes.
Go ahead, Rob.
Well, maybe not for Joe so much personally, but for Andy and Joe, what is your jurisdiction of what you can do? And is this going to be very similar to having zoning?
Well, it is a form of restriction on development in flood zones. And the flood zones, as I say, basically parallel the banks of the West River. North of the dam, obviously it's Army Corps of Engineer land for the most part. So there's not going to be any.
It's already marked out on the West River.
Yeah. So
what I'm saying is like, as far as like, we have many streams, we have waterways, crossing roads, and right-of-ways crossing the river and everything throughout the town. And is Joe Winrich going to be able to tell somebody that they can't egress and regress their property over a waterway, or whether they can utilize the back 40, so to speak, of anything? And are we going down the path of the zoning that we've already voted as a town to not really have by adopting a floodplain administrator? Because I've seen in other towns, Andy, this, and I'm a little weary of it. So, and I understand the part of getting the funding part too. So, well,
first I would say that it's not a matter of adopting the bylaw, because the bylaw was first adopted in '77 and then readopted in 2007.
I meant appointing.
Right. Well, the appointment is a requirement of the bylaw. I mean, the select board could vote to undo the bylaw, I guess. I mean, that would be one thing. There are restrictions, and it does require permits for development in the established flood areas or flood zones, which the federal FEMA basically marks out as being along the banks of the West River and along the banks of Millbrook, basically up through just past Harmonyville. So there is some housing that is in that area. Not a lot. The way the bylaw is written is that new development in that area would be if it was in an area that would flood. Now, the flood zones in our particular area have not been surveyed for base level, which would be the level of a 100-year flood. It is strictly marked as the distance away from the river or the waterway. So if you were on a high bank next to the waterway, you obviously would not be in the flood zone, although you'd be marked where the federal map line is. So there's a case where development would be fine. In the other areas, I think you're not likely to see development. As far as other waterways, it doesn't really apply to other waterways.
So from what I understand of what you're saying, it's only in these defined areas that we're talking about where it can be regulated, basically. So under the dam down Route 30, or the other side of the dam down Route 30, town side, in certain areas. So the idea that it's going to impact brooks and streams that aren't part of that plan, this has nothing to do with. Did I get that right?
That's generally correct.
Yes. Okay. All right. Joe, would you like to introduce yourself and take any questions from any of the board members?
Happy to. Thank you. I know some of you not. I'm Joe Winrick. I've lived in Townsend for a while now. Basically I have no qualifications for this job other than being able to read and sort of figure this out with you all as a bylaw, and a willingness to do my bit for the town. So,
thank you. Thank you for stepping forward to take on this position. Anybody have any questions for Joe? Okay. Now, the Planning Commission has done their duty, so to speak, with this and in placing Joe's name in nomination. But I'm looking for a motion from the members to accept him for this 3-year appointment.
I guess I do have a question. I'm unsure of what this position is enforcing. Are they enforcing? Or are they just informing? Are they going to check in if they see, buildings going up in the floodplain? You could just go over that again. Thank you.
Andy, go ahead.
The plan administrator is responsible for enforcing the language in the flood bylaw. There is I can certainly get a copy to you, but there's a copy in the town clerk's office of the bylaw. And it's something that the select board passed last in 2007. So.
My whole thing about it is, and I've been in a situation where we had to cross the river, so to speak, to get to a piece of property. And all of a sudden the flood plan commissioner, whatever, came in and foo-fooed the whole thing. And next thing we're in getting permits to cross a brook that had been crossed in the same area for, at least since the 40s. And I feel that you get people sometimes and not you, Joe, by any means, but other people, and they get a bigger head than they really need for the position that they're upholding. Does that make sense?
I do see what you're speaking to, Rob, but unless the body of water is in the defined floodplain area now, as I understand it, and it's a 12-page bylaw. I've read it through a couple of times. I certainly would not call myself an expert at it, but I did want to see what I was getting myself into. unless this is already designated as flood area, there's no authority to go in and start changing things that have been in existence. Like some little stream that you drive across in the woods to get to a piece of property or something. This would be like in the designated federal floodplain that's been designated that way for quite some time, and there's not very much of it.
And to be honest with you, I just wanted to say it so that it's out there on the table and has been said. And I want to see it kept to where you're talking about the designated areas along the West River, Millbrook, and even any of the other places that are just normal jurisdiction of the state of Vermont. But I don't want to see this position all of a sudden ruling the town as a sub of like zoning, so to speak, besides the Act 250 and the water and all that stuff. So I just want to put it out there.
Well,
You are unmuted.
just a comment that I have about this. If we have local control, control won't be hoisted on us by the state or changes without us being informed. And if I understand it correctly, the board would have the right to rule on whether the floodplain was changed, or the actual, not the floodplain, but the ordinance or bylaw. Steve, did you have something?
Yes. I would like to recommend that we table the appointment and allow this board to review the bylaw before we move forward.
Okay. Is that a motion?
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion to table this until we have a chance to read and clarify it.
Yeah, I second that.
We have a motion and it's seconded. Any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay. And I'll vote with the majority. Okay, Joe, it's going to go on another couple of weeks. Hold tight, and we'll get back to you. If you want to come into the board meeting next time, I'm sure at least 2 weeks will have people a chance to have more questions and be more informed.
Okay, yeah, just let me know when it is.
Okay. Carla, would you put a reminder for Joe?
Will do.
Thank you.
And Joe, I'd like to say thank you for putting your time and being willing to take on this. It's not, this isn't, we're not trying to foo-foo this. We just want to make a informed decision, or not an informed, but be informed about it.
Not a problem.
Okay. Andy, you had one more thing, the DVCUD, and this has to do with the broadband issue that we had people speaking about last time. You have a recommendation for us, I understand. Go ahead with that.
I do. It seems like I'm talking about various interactions with what the state has authorized to happen. Because this is another one where the state authorized the formation of communications union districts to promote and develop more broadband access in rural areas. And the communication union districts are municipal entities. They're separate from the town, but the town has to authorize joining the communications union district. And it can either be done by a vote of the population of the residents if you're forming a new communications union district, or if you are joining an existing one, then it's by vote of the select board, or by the vote of the residents, could be either. Communication union districts, it's very important. They do not have the ability to raise taxes. Any funding must be through grants, loans, revenue bonds, and user fees. And the other important element to be clear on is the towns that are part of the communications union districts are not responsible in any way for the debts or obligations of the CUD. So there is no tax ramifications back to the town from a CUD.
Okay.
Last year, Windham Regional Commission did a survey, feasibility study, and eventually a business plan, which concluded that a CUD covering Windham County was viable. At the same time that they were doing that, several of the southern towns formed the Deer Valley Communications Union District, which also goes under the name of DV Fiber. This group has been active in the last year, getting grants to start up money, and also have done some make-ready studies assessing the telephone poles in, I think, 5 of the towns that have the least amount of broadband service, which tend to be the southern ones along the Massachusetts line area. I have to say, initially, I was kind of in favor of a wait-and-see approach on this because I thought the success of DB Fiber was questionable. There was a big open question. There was a federal program called the RDOF auctions, which is Rural Development of Fiber, I think it is, or something like that, which was an auction where existing utilities could make a reverse bid to provide expanded broadband service in unserved areas. And Consolidated won that for most of the areas that were open in Windham County. And if they had decided that they were going to run fiber, then they would have been competing with any new communications union district. They have decided that they are going to continue to use their existing copper wire, which is kind of limiting, to get to minimal levels of broadband speeds, and hence really are not going to be a direct competitor with the existing Deer Valley fiber. The other aspect that made me a little leery early on was the funding. That just questioned whether it was going to be financially viable, whether we're going to be able to raise the money that was necessary in terms of both loans, revenue bonds, to get a viable entity up and running. A lot of that's changed in the last year. I mean, with the pandemic, we've all seen, as we're meeting tonight on Zoom, that's been occurring, across the country, and people have rediscovered or discovered the importance of having broadband access, and specifically the higher speed access in rural areas where it has been lacking. And as such, there's been a lot of money. The new American Recovery Act puts forth a lot of money, and one of the areas for infrastructure is water, sewer, and broadband. So there's a lot of dollars coming from that. The state has H360, which has passed the House and is now before the Senate, which would make $150 million available in the state for broadband development, most of which will go to communications union districts. So there's a lot of dollars available now that are in the form of not loans, but are out and out grants that will not need to be repaid by user fees or by revenue bonds. So that kind of changed the dynamics and made the ability of the communications union district to be successful in expanding broadband service to Townshend. Townshend has about a little over 60% of the residences have the ability to get broadband service, and most of that is through what is now Comcast. So some of the, and that's basically falls along 30 and 35. The areas that don't have it are along Buck Hill, West Hill, Windham, Back Windham, Simpson Brook, Acton Hill, are some of the areas where there has not been cable, and hence there's not been broadband service available. I now think that it's quite possible that our best bet really is to join with the Deer Valley Fiber and join that communications district, which would allow us to have one member that would be on their governing board and help in influencing the direction that build out goes. We're kind of at a critical time because they are in the process right now of putting out to bid and deciding who they're going to hire to do their design and construction and operation of their fiber network. And it's pretty important that we are part of the organization before they get to the final design period. Now, Route 30 is going to be you might not be aware of it, there's also a lot of fiber that runs along Route 30 already, not for residential use, but more commercial use, that would possibly be tapped for creating a new fiber loop. The other area is along the Velco transmission lines. They offer a lot of what they call dark fiber, which is fiber that is there but not currently being used, that could be utilized for this new communications union district. It is I know there's been lots of promises, lots of talk about getting broadband out to the rural areas in Vermont going back for decades. I think this gives us, maybe not instantaneously, but gives us the best opportunity that we've had to get broadband access to the majority of the residents of town. It really is a very low risk option for the town. There's no liability back to the town. It does give us a voice in how it's developed, and probably will end up leading to getting broadband before you're 80. I think that was, I don't remember whether that was Steve that was going to be 80 before he got broadband up there. The last two meetings ago, but I think you'll get it before then. It might be 4 years, might be 5 years, might even be as soon as 2 or 3 years, but I think it will happen if we participate in the existing Deer Valley Communications Union District. We could go it on our own, but our chances of getting access to the current funding sources and getting things established in time would really put us way behind the 8 ball.
Okay, so it's your recommendation that we join this union, and do you have a recommendation of who to appoint to it?
I do. I thought he might be here. He is not, but Bob DeServo has indicated a interest and a willingness to be the town's representative to the Communications Union District. We also have the ability to appoint 1 or 2 alternates, and I'd put my name in to be one of the alternates.
Okay. All right. So I guess, go ahead.
If there's no questions, I would make a nomination to nominate Bob DeServo for the DVCUD.
You are unmuted.
Planning Commission. Use Andy Snelling as a backup for the DVCUD commission, and would nominate those guys to do it.
Okay. Steve, do you have something?
No, I second it.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded to appoint 2 members that Rob spoke of. Is there any discussion?
I'd offer a point of information that you also have to include in your motion that the town is joining, it would like to join the Deer Valley Communications Union District.
Okay.
That was,
Rob, would you modify?
I would amend my motion to include the town of Townshend joining the DVCUD broadband board, and then Bob DeServo and Andy Snelling serving on the board.
Steve, do you continue to second that?
You are unmuted.
But we still need to include the Deer Valley part of it, don't we?
Yeah, that's what Rob did. He adjusted the motion to include that, and I'm asking you whether you agree to that change.
Yes, I second it.
Okay. All right. Is there any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Hi.
Okay. 5-0. Thank you, Andy, for all of the work you did and the summaries and for both issues. And we'll get back to you about the first one about the floodplain issue for the next time, if that works for you. Okay. Now, we've had someone come into the meeting who has a concern. This is a public, a member of the public. So I want to go back and deal with that so that she can state what she needs and get some clarification from us. Are there any objections to returning to members of the public?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is Kathleen Cronin. I hope I've got that right. Kathleen,
Yes, sir, you do. Yep.
I understand the issue is about the garbage bags and garbage on State Forest Road.
That is correct.
Am I correct with that? Okay.
Yeah, that is
Go
correct.
ahead with what you wanted to say, and we can give you some information of where we are with that.
Okay. My husband and I own some property at 1500 State Forest Road, and we share the beginning of the driveway with our neighbor, Patrick Kiernan, at 1458 State Forest Road. And he has been piling up his trash along the edge of the driveway, like between our two properties. And I began working on trying to get it cleaned up. At the end of the summer, last summer, I spoke with Patrick's counselor to try to get him to remove it. We tried talking to Patrick, but he doesn't answer his door. And then I started working with Dr. Schaefer. Dr. Schaefer tried to deliver letters to him, giving him a notification that he had 2 weeks to clean it up, but he doesn't have mail, he doesn't get certified mail, and he doesn't answer his door, so it's almost impossible to deliver anything to him. We were able to get a trooper to deliver a notice of no trespass to Patrick. So as I understand that the town needs to notify Patrick that he has 2 weeks to remove the trash. So we're hoping that our next step would be for maybe a courier to deliver the letter for you to him. I'm not sure, but it hasn't moved. It's been there since last summer. And we're just concerned about pests, and it's unhealthy, you know.
Just so you know, Kathleen, the issue has been in constant motion. We have tried to send him certified letters. As you know, that doesn't work. We have had the health officer involved, as you're aware.
Yep.
We contacted the state environmental protection, and they sent an investigator up there to inspect this stuff. And unless it is impacting the waterway, they have said that there's nothing that they can do with it. We did, however, today find an address of a co-owner that doesn't live there, and a certified letter went out with the post today to that person. So we have to run that And then I believe that our next step is going to go to the town attorneys for what we can legally do to make this happen. So it's not happening. It's just the way things work with things like this.
Oh, I understand. I believe that Dr. Schaefer sent a letter to the other owner in October.
Okay.
I don't know if he sent it certified letter, but you might reach out to him to see if he has a copy of the receipt of that, showing that the other owner did receive that letter.
Okay. That we didn't know. I will ask Carla to follow up with Dr. Schaefer and see if we've got certification of that. Like I said, the certified letter went out today to this second owner of the property who apparently does not live here anymore.
Yeah.
It may come down to a circumstance that if our attorney allows us to do it, of cleaning it up and sending him the bill or putting a lien on his property, those types of things. But we are actively working on it.
I think that was suggested the first time.
Do we know if he's the property owner?
Yeah, believe so, yes.
Okay. I wasn't sure about that. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So right now, you sent this new letter out today. So 2 weeks from now, I'll have to follow up.
I'll have, if you can reach out to Carla today and give her that information.
Yeah, I can do that.
That way we can try and coordinate this a little bit more.
Okay. I appreciate you listening to me. Thank you.
No problem.
I actually have one other question. It's a very interesting meeting. Can we get a map of the flood zones? Because we're right on the river and we were told there's no zoning. We're hoping to build our permanent home there.
They are available. Go ahead, Andy.
They're available online. If you go to FEMA and do a little Googling around, that you'll find them there.
Okay. That sounds great. All right. Thanks so much.
Carla, you had something?
Yes, I just wanted to let you know that I'm emailing Dr. Schaefer right now with regard to the certified letter to the other owner that we don't seem to be aware of from him.
Okay. And that was on 10/26.
10/26. Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen.
All right. Thank you. Have a good night.
You too.
Okay. Let's return to, let's see here, Solid Waste Management District. The containers that we currently have, the management district is asking us to basically take ownership for, I believe it's $1. We've checked on the insurance for them. It is 8 cents on per $100 worth of value, so it's not breaking the bank. It looks like and I think Steve said the last time that these containers are in good condition. So we're not going to be stuck with junk that we can't deal with to take care of the recycling. Is there any questions about what we need to do? Okay. So basically what this is the management district wants us to sign the MOU, transferring ownership and letting them get rid of these things. I believe the information is in the packet, or it was in last time's packet. Carla, you've been working on this the most. Do you have anything else to add to that?
I do not, except that I literally just Googled the average worth of the roll-off containers for the 20 cubic yards, and the average price is like $465, depending on condition. I know we have 2 that are in decent condition and 1 that's a little bit rusty, but I'm guessing that the insurance company would probably expect pictures for when we decide to put them on the insurance policy in July.
Okay. Is there any questions about that part of it? Okay, hearing none. I'd entertain a motion to sign this MOU and take ownership of the
You are unmuted.
containers.
So moved.
Is there a second? Okay, that's been moved and seconded. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of signing the MOU and taking possession of the containers signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Okay, that's 5-0. Next on the list, hazmat issue. This is under new business. Hazmat issue. Fire department had replaced a hazardous materials or purchased a hazardous fireproof liquid cabinet, and when they put it in, they discovered an amount of a substance that is deemed hazardous and has to be disposed of by hazardous waste haulers. This was an acid, a material to suppress the effects of acid or neutralize it. And the fire chief has been working with an environmental cleanup organization out of, I believe it's Rhode Island. This may require us to get a permit from the EPA. All of that is in the works. The fire chief has been handling this, and I see no reason to take it out of his hands. He'll report to us what the status of it is.
Where are we putting that in the town pit?
No, it's got to go to it's got to be hauled to a disposable waste site.
Oh.
This is, yeah, I guess it's stable. It's the consistency of sand or kitty litter, but that particular chemical is deemed hazardous, so it has to be dealt with by hazardous cleanup people. Any other questions about that? I will keep you informed as I get more information. Also, the fire department received notice today that it received a $5,000 grant from VLCT for equipment purchases. This grant is the 2021 grant. They just finished, or the 2020 grant was just finished, which, by the way, bought that hazmat cabinet. So that is moving forward to be dealt with before the end of our fiscal year. The money is in the budget, and it requires no additional monies to make it happen. And the thing that's not listed on here is the bike path, and so that should have been added at the beginning of the additions and deletions. This is something that the Historical Society and I guess they've been spearheading it, but it also involves grants. It involves private property. And Steve, I think you have some of this talking with Charlie. So why don't I turn it over to you?
You are unmuted.
You're referring to the signs, Sherwood?
No, this is the bike path.
Oh, no, I am not working with Charlie on the bike path. I am working with Charlie on all the signs for the stone arch bridges.
Oh, okay. All right. I thought you had something with this. All right. So what it is they're trying to create a bike path loop. It goes from State Forest Road around to Route 30. Initially, they were going to go over the bridge, the Scott Bridge, but Army Corps is willing to build a bridge for bike and pedestrian pass on their property, and then it'll loop down Route 30 down to back down to the lower end. There'll be a couple of places to connect to it along the way. It will go back onto State Forest Road, or connect back to State Forest Road, basically from the state parks, the campgrounds, that type of thing. So there's nothing really we have to do with it right now, but it is something that's in the works that again, the Historical Society has been working on this. It might require a representative from the board to help them out or be part of their planning, but we'll see where that goes. Let's see.
So that's only on State Forest Road? Is that, it's the only road that's?
No, it's going to come out onto Route 30, and then go into town, and then down Route 30, so that you can connect to it from the campgrounds off of Depot Road, and then continue down, you cross the bridge, come back around to the dirt road and back to the campgrounds. So
Okay.
it primarily going to take place on State Highway. There's not a lot of it that's going to impact our roads that I can think of. So again, there's a grant process involved in it, and that's where we may have to become more involved and get more information at that point in time. All right. I think we've covered just about everything here. I have on my agenda for an executive session for 1 VSA 313A3 for a personnel issue. I'd entertain a motion to go into the executive session to deal with this.
So moved.
Moved.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I guess I.
Okay. Aye. Okay, we are returning to open session. The decision was made that there is an amount of property that has been stored in the town hall for a long period of time, and that the original date of May 5th to have it removed is what's going to stand. Other actions may be taken if it's not removed. Okay, with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn for this evening.
So moved.
You are unmuted.
And do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Have a good evening, folks. Thank you for your participation, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.